So we've heard already that routines are extremely helpful in many different ways. They allow children to feel a sense of empowerment, a sense of knowing what to do. That equals a sense of success. They feel like they're part of a team. So really very positive outcomes. So routines are really based around being practical. They're born out of a need for being efficient. So the first thing you need to do is identify what needs to be more efficient. How do you know? So when you look at the daily run and you're looking at something that happens over and over again, so it's got the key ingredient of repetition, but it's also tied to inefficiency. So it'll be places where you feel you've wasted time, or certain aspects of a particular task that always get forgotten, or sometimes it's different bits get forgotten, but on a weekly basis you never get the whole task done. And the ultimate outcome from those two ingredients is tension and conflict, whether it's just personal or whether it's between other people. So those are the red flags that say we need to have a routine here. So once you've recognized it, you need to then work out the little tiny contributory steps that there are to achieving the outcome that you want. And you sit them down, put them in a practical order, make sure that you're building in enough time for those things to really happen. It shouldn't be done against the clock. It should be done in real time. And then you need to communicate your thinking. Making sure that everyone who's going to be involved in this routine knows exactly what the game plan is absolutely critical. There's no point in you thinking I've got a routine, because that means it's doomed to fail. So once you're saying to people, look, I think we need to change the pattern of our behaviour here. We need something different to happen, because, so you're telling them why they need it to change. For example, we try to get out every morning to go to school, and actually what happens is I always end up shouting at you, and then you go to school crying and I'm upset, and I feel very sad that you're sad, and that's a dreadful thing, and what I'd really like is for you to be happy when you go to school, for example. So making it really clear what the need is, and making it clear that love sits behind that. If you start talking about things like time and speed and distance and efficiency, I'm not entirely sure that your children will buy into it. It has got to be about the fact that you want to nurture and care for them. So making it clear why you need to have the routine, then explaining what it is that you think that you're going to do. We're going to do A and B and C, and you can write that out if you think that's going to be helpful. And then you have to be very clear about what in that activity will be their responsibility. What are your expectations of them in this particular routine? And then you're going to explain the benefits again. If we get this right, X will happen, you'll go to school happy, and I'll be happy, and you'll have a great day, and etc., etc. And once the process begins, that's the bit where you've really got to kind of hang on to the praise. And this is the bit where the children become really very empowered, because the minute they know the step, they know what to do, that's an opportunity for you to praise them. And we start on this great big upward spiral. Suddenly everything starts to decompress. We all feel a little bit lighter. Things are moving in the right direction. But you do have to be patient. On average, it takes about 66 days for new behaviours to become an automatic reaction. So you have to really focus on the times which, when they're getting it right, not when it's not going quite right. Focus on the yeses, not the nos. But one of the challenges, and come back to the group that we've just come out of, one of the challenges about building a routine for a family is the fact that you've got several people to coordinate. And you want them all to stick to the same story, to get behind the same truck. And this can be really hard if you've got a mixture of ages, a mixture of personalities, if you've got people who are early birds and others who are night owls. And we just heard about that in the group. So, trying to get something which suits everyone is difficult, but not impossible. And one of the common threads that sits through routine is understanding that you're working as a team, and that you're being respectful to other people, that you understand that other people are working in that same team. And as you get older and those routines perhaps change, that that key message, that key thread doesn't go away. So even when you're old enough to create your own routines, and you don't need to have your mum create those routines for you, that you still remember that in the business of working with others, you have to be respectful of other people's needs. So it's difficult sometimes. And that means sometimes you have to go backwards a little bit. Sometimes there's a bit of negotiation in terms of how that routine will look. So you have to be open. Once you set up a routine, as I say, it takes about 66 days and that's assuming that you've got the outline perfect the first go. So it might take you a bit longer if you have to pat it into space. It might be that people come back and say, well, like, this bit's not suiting me, or you recognise as a mother of young people that certain things that you thought might happen aren't happening. It's too much too soon. They're not quite ready for that yet. And so you have to be prepared as the routine organiser to be able to be flexible enough that you can make it fit the people that you're working with. And adjustment is fine, but I'm not suggesting for a moment that you contradict yourself or that you change your mind to say, oh, we don't need a routine. You have to hold that central thought that the purpose for that routine was the fact that you were having an inefficient time that led to conflict. And that's the bit that you want to resolve. So you have to hold that in your head, that that's what you're going to remove, and that's the purpose of the routine. Changing the shape around it then isn't a contradiction at all. So I think one of my sort of last messages would be to say to you that you've got to really listen when you're setting those routines up to listen and observe how people are feeling in those routines. It's okay to change them. And it's good for people who are in the routine with you to feel like they're being listened to, because if you're being listened to and the routine is actually part and parcel of your ideas, if you've helped to create it, they're much more likely to get behind it. So that's kind of routines and changing them. We've had a real good think about some of the issues around routines. Susan, can I come back to you and ask you, does that answer your question? You're asking me about making routines fun and not, was it fun and not so difficult or something, or not so contentious? Does that answer your question? I can't hear you, sorry. Oh.
Oh, now I am. Oh, yes. It just was that somebody mentioned that they were afraid that if there are strict routines, they'll be too strict and they won't be enjoyable. But I think a key point that jumped out for me was that if you negotiate with the children and get ideas from them and take their ideas and be interested in them and incorporate them in the planning, then they'll be more likely to get behind it and enjoy it and be part of it and cooperate with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't want to be living in a dictatorship where you're saying, right, this is changing and you're going to be here at station A and I'll be at B and we'll all do that. No, not at all. It has to be something that they can buy into, and using the skills that the children have, being a bit creative and sort of, as I say, it's supposed to be an empowering experience for them, definitely.
Encourage their imagination. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And to take up Valbona's point, if you can enjoy it and have fun on the way, that's not a crime. Parenting should be fun. Parenting should be.
Somebody said it should be fair, firm, and fun.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I would go with that. Yeah.
Easy to remember that. I put that on the fridge years ago.
Cool. All right. So, we're kind of running out of time. I'm aware of that. It's 3:45. Any other questions or any other comments or any other observations that people want to make? Yeah, Nida. Yes. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I've got a question for you or Teuta. What tips do you have for parents during this COVID-19? For example, expectation about the work, daily schedule. We like to hear more, to take advice from you too. Thank you.
Okay, well, I mean, I think everything always comes right back down to your values. Who are you? That was the first kind of question that we started to think about. Who are we and what do we think is important? And that never changes, whether you're in COVID-19 lockdown, whether you're on holiday, whether you're on a trip to the moon, or whether you're just doing your bog standard week. You're still you, and your values, if they are real, should still hold true. But the routines, in our group, we were just saying that, the routines change. Routines change as children grow older. They grow out of them. They don't need to have a routine to brush their teeth. They're quite capable of sorting themselves out, So routines change, and they change because of the children, but they also change because of the circumstance. I'm finding my whole life is very different. My daily routine is very different at the moment, and it will probably change back again. And that's why being fluid about it's okay, as long as you hold on to the focus of why you set them up in the first place. And they're not something that's, I said before, it's not something that's set in stone. It's something that it has got to have a purpose. It's a tool for us to use to make life more efficient, so we can get rid of tension and conflict. We can get rid of time wasting, which means we can have more time doing what Valbona wants to do, which is dance around the kitchen with her daughter. Brilliant. That's exactly what we should be spending our time doing, if that's your value. So I think it's about being flexible, but also keeping that focus. Teuta, if you unmute yourself, I can hear what you...
Thank you.
Can you hear me? I'm so sorry that I disconnected with you. I'm so sorry.